with us. So, David Hay against Arnold Zherzhak on Saturday. How are things going? How's the training gone?
Yeah, training's gone great. We picked up sort of from last camp against Mark Demori. He wasn't as sharp and fit as I'd liked him for that last camp. Maybe it came a little bit soon, but this one, he wasn't out of the gym long. He was out of the gym maybe 10 days and then straight back in. And it's been a great camp. He's done a lot more sparring for this camp than he did for the last one, and things are going really on point.
I mean, talking about the training in a camp, obviously recently Lennox Lewis, it was touched on in the press conference.
Yeah, I didn't even hear
came
that
out and
until
said,
today. So
yeah, it was basically saying he's bulked up a bit too much. Is he favouring the strength over the speed?
Yeah.
And saying he should favour the speed.
I think it's nice of Lennox to care and to voice his opinions, but I don't believe it's going to be a factor. He'll probably be weighing about 16 stone for this fight, so he's on it. His weight's like 102 now, so his speed's up there. He's been doing sort of all this for the last 10 days. He's been doing sort of speed work with George Groves. My theory is if he can get past George Groves' his jab, he can get past Arnold Zherzhak's. So everything's been looking good, and he's around guys that like super bantamweights and light welterweights, and the slowest guy in the gym is probably George Groves, who's not exactly slow, is he? So being around that is only going to speed you up.
Obviously, not many people know an awful lot about Zherzhak coming into this. Yourselves probably don't know an awful lot, obviously, either. Is there anything you've seen that does worry you that he could have in his locker?
Yeah, no, he's got good feet. You can see he's well schooled. He's got good amateur background, good jab, punches nice and long as well. So these are things that we've got to work on. But he's had to deal with that and prepare for that style against the likes of Vladimir Klitschko. So this guy's no Vladimir Klitschko. So I think it might be tricky for a few rounds, but then once he sort of finds his distance and gets his timing off, Arnold's going to be going to sleep.
I was just about to say, do you think it's only going to go one way Saturday with a knockout?
No, look, he punches long. David can't take risks. He's going to have to think his way through it and not rush his work. So if he goes out there and lets the crowd get to his head, it could make it a hard night for himself. But you're talking about David Hay, a guy who's been there and done it. He's only performed in front of massive stages. He's not going to let it lose his rag. He's going to go out there and think his way through it and put on a good show.
Saying about shows, obviously on Dave, are you still happy to be on Dave? Obviously free to view.
Listen, it makes no difference to me where we're viewed, as long as there's people tuning in to watch it. That's all that I care about. We had 3.5 million people watch it last time. This time, you're going to be looking at say 4.5-5 million is what we're looking at. So these are huge numbers, and I think it's great for boxing. It's great to be back on Chester television. The Anthony Joshua's of this world, he's now on his pay-per-view every single time. David Hay's more recognisable walking down the street than Anthony Joshua, and that's because he's built his career up, over a long period of time. But he's also been on, at the start of his career, he was on BBC on the undercards of Audley. So it's great for him and his profile and his brand. I think boxing has to start going back onto Chester television.
Do you think the partnership will carry on? Because obviously Briggs is next. After Briggs, could be getting back on.
Of course, it's got a timeline, because when you're talking about massive fights, Chester television just doesn't pay as well as the pay-per-views. So if everyone's money driven and money incentivized, but David could have gone on a much bigger channel and platform and tried to get way more money for even these fights. So it shows his his respect to his fans and going out there and doing it for them.
Where do you think he's actually going to be this time next year? Obviously, win this fight, beat Briggs. Where do you see yourself?
Well, I believe he can win a world title. I think this time next year he'll have a belt around his waist. Who I don't have a clue who's going to step up to the plate, but as we were talking about just previously, money talks, and he is the biggest fight out there. When you talk about Anthony Joshua, you talk about David Hay. You put those two in the same bracket. You don't talk about Anthony Joshua and Tyson Fury. It's much more incentivized towards David Hay. So we've just got to make sure that the right fights out there and the right money's on the table.
Led me nicely into that one with Tyson Fury. Obviously, his tweet to your dad. What did you make of that? It was a bit.
I just think I don't. He didn't. He wasn't there. He wasn't around. I mean, he's like my age. So we weren't around in the troubles. We didn't know what went on. He is getting all this information from, people that are in his family or, that were around at the time. They don't have a clue because they're all from Manchester. So the fact is that Dad's from Ireland and he represented Ireland and but he never fought for a flag. He was always, trying to create peace, and he done more for boxing, globally and in Northern Ireland and Southern Ireland than Tyson Fury could ever imagine to do.
Wow, yeah. Obviously, Carl Frampton, Leo Santa Cruz, end of July.
Huge fight, yeah.
How excited are you for that one, for yourself and obviously for Carl going into that?
Yeah, massive. I mean, the fact is that Carl wants to be in box office fights, big money fights, and big names. He wants to go out there and create a legacy, and he's now moving up, fight for a world title in the two-weight. If he can become a two-weight world champion, it's just it's a dream come true for him. When he fought Kiko Martinez, he thanked me and said, we've achieved my dream. I says, all right, let's make a new one. Let's unify the division. He's unified the division. He's now stepping up. You can't explain from where he's come from. He wasn't even picked on the Irish team. He wasn't funded by the Irish team. They're all still fighting in amateur tournaments. The guys that he was with in the amateurs, and now he's unified world champion and fighting a three-weight world champion in the weight division above, which is just huge.
A man obviously at the gym on a different sort of trajectory at the moment.
Yeah.
George Groves. He's coming back. He's got Martin Murray. How do you think that one's going to go?
Great fight. Great fight for George at this stage of his career. None of the champions wanted to fight him. So it's a keep busy fight, I believe. It's a great fight for George. Style-wise, it's a great fight. I think I wasn't too keen on it at the start because I want him to win a world title, but unfortunately boxing isn't that easy. You've got to kind of earn your stripes and get yourself back into. He's had 3 shots. We need to get our 4th shot, and Mark Murray stepping in front of us can catapult us to that next level to fight for a world title again. So it's perfect fight for him at this stage of his career, and I believe perfect style. I think George will walk and onto a shot.
Obviously, all the drugs in the sport at the moment is main headlines. Povetkin, most recently. What's your take on it? Is it as big a problem as is being made out?
Yeah, definitely. It's a bad problem. It's unnecessary. They're looking at a 2 or 3% edge, which they can do if they just trained a bit harder. I find it. It's bad for boxing. I know it's been around for a long time, and it's way worse than other sports. But it's a series of events that's just gone on. You've got the Felix Sturm that's been done for drugs. You've got Lucas Brown, although I don't think there's much merit in that one. And then you got the Povetkin, which is just although it's not a anabolic steroid, it's still a performance enhancing drugs, and it showed that he took it after the ban was released. So this is a shame because that would have been a great fight between Povetkin and
it's tricky as well, bringing up Lucas Brown. It's where do you draw the line? People say they're innocent, of course, but how do you gauge who is actually trying to cheat?
The fact is he took a drug test on the Monday, and then on the Saturday he had clenbuterol in his system, which raises your body temperature by 3 or 4 degrees, which means he could have actually taken a heart attack in the fight. It's just like, why would you ever do that? It's the silliest move out there. So I don't think he's purposely done that himself. Maybe it was in the meat, or there's lots of conspiracy theories. But whatever the case, I don't think he's guilty.
Final question: Saturday evening, will David Haye go on to fight Shannon Briggs September time?
Yeah, if they both come through it, I believe. Once again, I don't think many of the champions want to fight David Haye. He's an extremely dangerous opponent out there. Although he's a massive name, they want to feel, they want to ignore him. They want to push him back to the back of the queue. But he's going to be fighting in front of a packed out O2 on Saturday. He's going to be fighting in front of maybe 4 or 5 million people on TV. How can you ignore that? He's a huge name out there, and it's only a matter of time before one of the champions steps up to the plate. And when they do step up to the plate, I think they're getting taken out. But you know, if you got Shannon Briggs in the meantime, why not? We'll take that fight. It's a great fight in terms of publicity. He talks a good game, so let's go and do it.
Cheers for your time.
No worries.